The Trump administration found itself at the center of a growing defense controversy after publicly dismissing the Swedish-built Saab Gripen 39 as an inferior product, a cheap alternative not worth considering. But the combat record of that so-called inferior jet tells a starkly different story, one that is forcing uncomfortable questions all the way up to the Pentagon, the White House, and the halls of Congress. It began when Pete Hoekstra, the United States ambassador to Canada appointed by President Donald Trump, sat down with CBC News and delivered a blunt warning to the Canadian government. If Ottawa dared to purchase the Swedish Gripen fighter jet over the American-made Lockheed Martin F-35 Lightning II, there would be consequences. Ambassador Hoekstra specifically warned that NORAD, the North American Aerospace Defense Command, the joint military partnership that has protected the continent since the Cold War, would have to be altered. He went further, saying the United States would need to buy more F-35s for its own air force and fly them more frequently into Canadian airspace to address security threats. In plain language, a sitting U.S. ambassador was telling a sovereign ally that if it chose the wrong airplane, America would effectively take over its skies. It was an extraordinary statement directed at a country that has fought alongside the United States in virtually every major conflict for over a century. What makes the episode so jarring is what the actual combat exercise record of the Gripen reveals. At Red Flag, Alaska, 2006, one of the most prestigious and realistic multinational air combat exercises in the world. Hosted by the United States Air Force, the Swedish Air Force brought their Gripens and were assigned to the Red Team, the adversary force, operating with reduced AWACS support and reduced ground assistance. They were deliberately handicapped. And yet, according to former Swedish Air Force flight engineer Stefan England, who participated in those exercises, the Gripen pilots connected their own data link systems, effectively creating their own airborne early warning network and generated their own battlefield awareness entirely independent of external support. On the very first day, they scored 10 simulated kills, including taking down a Eurofighter Typhoon, one of Europe's most advanced jets, while recording 0 losses. One single Gripen pilot knocked down 5 F-16 Block 50-plus fighters in close air combat. 5 American-built jets eliminated by one pilot flying a plane Washington had just labeled inferior. Throughout the entire exercise, the Gripens never lost a single aerial encounter, never failed a single mission objective, and were the only aircraft in the exercise that completed every single planned sortie while American jets sat grounded waiting for weather to improve. That exercise was not a one-time anomaly. During joint exercises with the Royal Norwegian Air Force, 3 Swedish Gripens went up against 5 Norwegian F-16s. The results were staggering: 5-0 in the first round, 5-0 in the second, and 5-1 in the third. 3 Gripens systematically destroying 5 F-16s across 3 full rounds of combat with only 1 loss total. During exercise Loyal Arrow in Sweden, a single Gripen acting as an aggressor intercepted 3 United States Air Force F-15C Eagles, among America's most iconic air superiority fighters, and shot down 2 of them. The only F-15 to escape did so not by outfighting the Gripen, but by using its superior thrust-to-weight ratio to simply run away. And at Falcon Strike 2015 in Thailand, Royal Thai Air Force Gripen pilots achieved 41 simulated shootdowns against Chinese People's Liberation Army Su-27 flanker jets while losing only 9 Gripens, with 88% of those kills coming from beyond visual range at 19 miles or more, demonstrating that the Gripen's radar, sensors, and missile integration are genuinely world-class. The genius of the Gripen, defense analysts argue, is not merely that it can fight effectively. It is the philosophy behind how it was designed and what it costs to operate. Sweden, a small nation that could never hope to outspend Russia in a prolonged conflict, built a jet to be the smartest rather than the most expensive. The Gripen can operate from 500-meter strips of public highway, be turned around, rearmed, and refueled in under 20 minutes by a small team of conscript mechanics with basic training, not specialist technicians working in climate-controlled hangars. Sweden has practiced these dispersed highway operations for decades under its base 90 system, spreading aircraft across the entire country to survive a first strike attack. The contrast with the F-35 is stark. The F-35 requires specialized climate-controlled maintenance facilities, highly trained crews, and extended maintenance windows, and has historically suffered readiness rates the percentage of the fleet actually ready to fly on any given day that have frustrated Pentagon officials for years. Published cost estimates put the Gripen's cost per flight hour somewhere between $4,700 and $10,000 depending on the source. The F-35E's cost per flight hour has been estimated anywhere from $30,000 to over $40,000. Even the most conservative comparison still leaves a fighter jet that costs several times more per hour to fly, and over a 30-year service life spanning hundreds of thousands of flight hours across a fleet. That difference amounts to tens of billions of dollars money that is not going toward pilot training, readiness, or keeping aircraft in the sky. The F-35 program remains the most expensive weapons acquisition program in the history of the American military, with an estimated total lifetime cost of approximately $1.8 trillion. Ironically, President Trump himself has had a turbulent relationship with the program he is now defending through his ambassador. During his first presidential campaign, Trump called the F-35's costs out of control and asked Boeing to price out a comparable F-18 Super Hornet as an alternative. In May 2025, during a trip to Doha, Qatar, Trump surprised the defense world by publicly criticizing the F-35's single-engine design, stating he does not like single engines and suggesting a twin-engine replacement he called the F-55 was in development. Comments that left former Air Force Secretary Frank Kendall mystified and left aviation experts questioning whether the president was describing aircraft programs that do not actually exist. Meanwhile, Elon Musk, one of Trump's closest allies, has publicly dismissed the F-35 as inferior to drone swarms, acclaimed defense analyst Richard Abalafia called a complete fantasy. So the president is criticizing the F-35, his closest technology advisor is calling it obsolete, and yet the president's own ambassador is simultaneously threatening America's closest ally for daring to explore an alternative. That contradiction has not gone unnoticed. The story extends far beyond Canada. Across the Atlantic, Spain and Portugal both canceled their F-35 orders after the United States imposed tariffs against their economies. Switzerland downgraded its original order of 36 F-35s after initial cost estimates proved too low, and Denmark, which already FLIs the F-35 as its sole fighter jet, has seen members of its parliament publicly express regret, with the head of the Danish Parliament's Defence Committee, Rasmus Jarlov, telling Canadian media bluntly, "Choose another fighter jet." Jarlov's reasoning carried a chilling undertone. The F-35s are in for repairs roughly half the time, and the Americans hold the power to destroy Denmark's entire air force simply by cutting off spare parts. That is an elected NATO allies Defense Committee chairman openly warning another country not to buy American because of the political leverage it hands Washington over their national security. Against this backdrop, international demand for the Gripen is accelerating. Colombia signed a multi-billion-dollar deal for 17 Gripen E/F aircraft in late 2025. Brazil has 36 Gripens on order and is negotiating for more with local assembly by Embraer. Peru is planning to purchase 24 Gripens, and Saab has offered Canada a package of 72 Gripen E/F fighters plus 6 GlobalEye airborne early warning and control aircraft, a deal the company says would create 12,600 jobs on Canadian soil. Adding another layer of complexity, the Trump administration may technically have the power to block the Canadian sale entirely, because the Gripen E is powered by a General Electric F-1 for engine, an American-made engine, meaning Washington could potentially invoke export controls to veto the transaction. Reports have also emerged that Trump administration officials privately warned they would not allow highly classified intelligence data to be shared over any network where a Gripen was present, effectively threatening to cut Canada out of the NORAD intelligence sharing system if Ottawa proceeds with the Swedish jet. At its core, this is a story about more than fighter jets. The F-35 is undeniably a technological marvel, a genuine fifth-generation aircraft with stealth capabilities, advanced sensor fusion, and networking abilities that no other fighter in the world can currently match, particularly in its ability to penetrate sophisticated integrated air defense systems. But defense planners are increasingly asking a harder question. Does all of that technology matter if you can only afford to fly the jet for a fraction of the hours needed to maintain pilot proficiency? Does it matter if your readiness rates leave half your fleet grounded on any given day? And does it matter if the entire program creates a structural dependency on a single country that has now demonstrated a willingness to weaponize that dependency for political leverage? The Gripen's answer to those questions is a fighter that may not be invisible to radar, but that can fly 3 to 4 times as many hours on the same budget, that can operate from a frozen Arctic highway, that carries the Meteor Beyond Visual Range missile, arguably the most capable air-to-air weapon in the Western arsenal, and that has proven repeatedly in exercises that it can go toe-to-toe with aircraft costing many times more and come out ahead. For decades, America built its global power not just through the size of its military, but through the trust of its allies, through the idea that being America's partner meant being protected and respected as an equal. A recent Echoes Politics poll found that 72% of Canadians now support incorporating the Gripen into their Air Force. Former Defense Department official and Georgia Tech associate Professor Margaret Kosel has described the growing unease over the F-35 as a potential canary in the coal mine, signaling a broader erosion of confidence in the United States as a reliable defense partner when NATO allies from Denmark to Spain are reconsidering their dependence on American hardware, and when Washington's own closest neighbor is weighing whether its skies are safer under Swedish engineering than under American political conditions. The question being asked in capitals across the alliance is no longer just about airplanes. It is about whether the network of alliances that has multiplied American power for 8 decades can survive the strain of being treated not as a partnership but as a dependency, and whether the most expensive weapons program in American history is worth the cost if it ends up being flown, one day, largely alone.